That is a negative. That is a negative. Yes, that is a negative. Thank you, sir. We give praise, esteem, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. John 5:39. Go back to that table with that bread, Elizabeth. John 5:39 is what it is and what it do. And after that, Genesis chapter 6. Because I had an interesting conversation about Genesis chapter 6. So I felt like I'll share it with everyone. Just to get for you to gain a little bit of perspective. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not the honor that come from Elohim only? Genesis chapter 6 and verse 1. Just for us to gain a little bit of perspective before we go to looking at some other things, just to gain a little bit of perspective. And it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, that the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And Yahuwah said, my Ruach shall not always strive with man, for he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. Hold on, right? Now we're going to look at the word strive. He says he's not always going to strive with man. When we look at this word strive at this particular point, the word is din, and it is to judge, to contend, to plead, to be at strife, or to have a quarrel, or to execute judgment, or vindicate. Now I want you to pause. He said he's not always going to fight with man. So we need to sit back and understand, what does he mean when he says he's not always going to fight with man? Let's just look at something. Let me see what direction I want to take with this. John chapter 15. It'll lead to something else that we got in the clip. Y'all willing. John chapter 15. So in the law, he is always telling, pause. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 3 to see Genesis chapter 2 to see why he got to fight with man in the first place. After Genesis chapter 2, then Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and then Genesis chapter 15. Yeah, we'll do it like that. Pray the Lamb. We'll do it like that. Genesis chapter 2, right? Verse 9. Because he said he's not always going to fight with man. He's not always going to contend with man. So the law is already giving you an inkling of telling you that Yah did not have a desire to fight with you. That we were causing that. That's what you need to sit back and understand. Yah was never seeking to fight with the people. The people were causing him to fight with him to fight with us. Out of the ground made Yahuwah Elohim to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for the food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So let's drop down in about verse 15. And Yahuwah Elohim took the man and put him into the garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in that day that thou eat thereof thou shalt surely die. So when we look at this here, right now, we could come back to Ecclesiastes chapter 7, and now I'll just expound for just a moment. He told them that if they ate from that tree, they would surely die. Yah had no desire. He's letting him know what it is. He did not want to contend, nor strive, nor judge, nor requite Adam with anything. He just told him, don't do this. Of course, we know what he did, and therefore he had to strive with Adam, or requite him, or judge him, or contend with him, by reason of what you read in Genesis chapter 3 and the curses that he laid upon his head. What does this tell us? This tells us that when we commit sin or transgression, that Yah has no choice but to requite, to repay, and to contend. Matter of fact, before we look at Ecclesiastes chapter 7, go to Leviticus 26. So because we didn't pull these things out of law for you to get an understanding. This man has no desire to do this. And the reason why we taking this track is for something that we're going to look at in Genesis chapter 6, so that you can actually understand the loving kindness, the mercifulness, and the long suffering of the person who you say is your God, and who you say you fear, and who you say you believe in, and who you say you love. This is to cause you to understand him. If you can understand him, then maybe it will cause you to understand his son. And if you can understand his son, then therefore you can understand salvation. And if you can understand salvation, maybe, just maybe, prayerfully, if it be his will, you'll start to live according to what's written. Leviticus 26. What verse do I choose to use? If I was in chapter 26, we might could be able to move. 26 and about verse 14. This is what he tell you, right? Because remember, he said he won't always contend and strive with man. So there's going to come a time where he going to stop judging. Where he going to stop, he's not going to do it. And we're going to show you when he said he's not always going to do it, and how he going to pass it on. But if you will not hearken unto me and will not do all these commandments, and if you despise my statutes, or if your soul abhor my judgments, so do you will not do all my commandments, but that you break my covenant. See, and that's the problem with a lot of people. You actually hate his judgments. You actually despise his statutes. And when we look at judgments, we meaning what he determines to be correct. Remember, judgment is not always judgments laying upon your head for a transgression. Judgments also is right ruling. And a lot of people don't like the things that he says is right. Just like we read in Isaiah 48 and 15. He said, my name is YAHUAH Elohim. I teach thee for your good. I teach you right things. The things that this man say they are correct. Just because you don't like them or you don't agree with them does not make them wrong, and he will crash you upside your head for it. That's what you have to get through your head. Nobody cares if you don't agree with it. Nobody cares if you don't like it. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't care. Your opinion does not matter. How many of you went to your people and your people said something to you and they told you, I don't care. I didn't ask you what you wanted. I don't care how you feel. That's how he feels. That's how he operates. He doesn't care. This is what he says is right. It doesn't matter how you feel. That's what you got to get through your head. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not. I don't feel. I like this here. If that man said that's what it is, then that's what it is. If you want to look at it as some men interpret things to like I told y'all the other day, people say that the book is made to control people. I don't see how when people are not following it. When you're controlled by something, then you follow the framework of what of the information that is controlling you. If people are not walking in something, then it's not controlling them. If it's not directing their actions, you're not controlled by it. Like when people say a man is controlling a woman, he dictates her actions, and whatever he says, that's what she does. She doesn't do anything outside of her own mind and her own choices. She does what he says. You know what I'm saying? That is controlling someone, getting them to do what you want them to do. Yah puts out there what he wants you to do, but he does not make you nor force you to do it. No preacher can make you or force you to do anything. They make him manipulate certain things to cause you to think that's what you're supposed to do, but no one can force you to do anything that you don't want to do, whether that be good or whether that be evil. Nobody can do that. Of course, we know there's certain situations where people do things under the threat of violence. And I think truth be told, I think the only action that anyone can do that they may not want to do under the threat of violence is rape. But you know what I'm saying? That's it. Somebody threatened to take your life to make you do something. You don't have to do that. Most people do certain things because they're scared to die. But in my opinion, this is my opinion, rape is the only thing. And I'm talking about a man raping a woman. Because that's about the only thing that's forcible, that this woman's not going to die behind that, and that somebody does something to her. And also child molestation, but you know, that's the same thing, truth be told. He says, I will do this unto you. I will even appoint over you terror and consumption and a burning ague that shall consume the eyes and cause sorrow of heart, and you shall sow your seed in vain, and your enemies shall eat it. And I will set my face against you, and you shall be slain before your enemies. They that hate you shall reign over you, and ye shall flee when none pursue you. And if you will not for all of this hearken unto me, then I will punish you 7 times more for your sins. Now notice the thing that he told you. He calls a terror and a consumption and a burning that would consume the eyes and a sorrow of heart. So before we look at Ecclesiastes chapter 7, let's look at Proverbs chapter 8 and then John chapter 8. See, we're looking at this here for you to understand that this man will bust you upside your head, but he doesn't really want to do that. Proverbs 8 and 34. Make it 33. Matter of fact, make it 32. Proverbs 8 and 32. And after that, John chapter 8 and verse 10. And it says, Now therefore hearken unto me, O ye children, for Baruch are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction and be wise and refuse it not. Baruch is the man that hear me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the post of my doors. For whoso find me find life, and shall obtain favor of YAHUAH. But he that sin against me wrong his own soul. All that hate me love death. That's what he just told you in Leviticus, that if you hate him, clearly you love death, because this is what he's going to bring upon your head: this sorrow, this consumption, this terror. And we're going to look at what this terror is, therefore, if you loving death, because Revelation chapter 20 tells you if your name is not found in the book of life, then you will be a partaker of the second death. So when you love to commit transgression, when you love to commit sin, therefore you love to burn in hell, because you love death. That's what you have to understand. When you do things that are outside the word of Elohim, you love death. This is bottom line. That's what you move by. That's what you cleave to. That's what you love. Because when you do the things that pertain unto life, then you love life, which means you love YAHUAH. And that is based off the choices that you make. At the end of the day, everything that you choose to do is dictated by what is in your heart. If you love sin, that's what you're going to do. If there's something that you're doing that's contrary to the word, then you will find every reason whatsoever to justify why you can continue to do so. Or you'll sit back and say, oh, that don't really mean that, or that's not what they're talking to cleave on to what you want to do. How do you expect to be honored by a man whom you cannot honor because you're trying to justify yourself? And a lot of the things that we be trying to do are so insignificant that to be holding on to. Because again, it's not going to be the matter of what you're trying to hold on to. It's going to be the stubbornness and rebellion that gets you cut off. That's because that's the part of the game you missing. It's not what you're trying to do. It's the heart behind it. It's the rebellion and the stubbornness. Remember, that's a proud heart. That's something that he finds abominable. That's something that he hates. You know, if you're a rebel, you're a witch. He can't allow you to live. He can't give you the ruach with that. People wonder why I can't get to this point, and why? Because it's these minute things that you doing that are actually bigger things because of the context of what is precipitating that mentality. It's your pride. It's your stubbornness. It's your refusal to submit because you haven't written the Torah out so you can humble yourself, so you won't lift yourself up. That's the problem. You know what I'm saying? That is the problem. This is why he wrote it out. This is why it's in your heart. This is why Amalek has to do that. Because then you turn around like we already dealt with. Amalek serves. So that means if Amalek serves, he can't lift himself up, because the law tell you that the elder shall serve the younger. And that meaning that if you take on Mashiach and he's the elder, then you would be a servant and everybody would serve one another, and the kingdom of Shamahim would be manifested unto men. And then that would be the weightier matters of the law, because then you will be dealing with judgment, mercy, and faith. And these are the things nobody want to talk about. They want to perpetrate it. They want to pretend it. They want to flodge. You know what I'm saying? What is the point of pretending to be something that you're not? What are you going to get out of that? What are you going to get out of that? You're not getting anything out of that. Job 20 already tell you that. What is the hope of the hypocrite when his joy, when his things perish? Matter of fact, let me get that, because I quoted him wrong. I didn't want you to hear it for yourself. I didn't want you to consider, because this man say he's not always going to strive with you. I just want you to consider. And after we read this Job 20, we swing in John chapter 8. I'm trying to move in an expeditious fashion, so bear with me. Let me make sure I pull the right verse. There it is, 20 and 4. Job 20 and 4. Make it 3. Just screw it. Break it verse 1. So you can hear the whole thing in its context. Then answered Zophar the Naamathite and said, Therefore do my thoughts cause me to answer, and for this I make haste. I've heard the check of my reproach, and the ruach of my understanding calls me to answer. Know thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment. He said the triumph of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite ain't but for a small moment. You got to be able to consider that and understand that when you make the move that you make. Because see, let's just look at it this here, right? If the words say, let me pull it, and I'm just speaking in general, because I know for most Hebrews these are the two biggest things, just because they look at it from a cultural standpoint: them fringes and them locks. Now, the fringes is not something that's necessarily spelled out in detail in the New Testament and the epistles, right? So when they read that in Numbers 15, they sit back and they look at, okay, you got to do that, that's in the law. Then they can't look at the connotation of what they were for, what was their purpose, and then the greater purpose later, because truth be told, as it says in Hebrews chapter 9, that is a carnal ordinance, because the ribbons of blue and the tzitzits, they're carnal things. It's cloth, they pass away. So men sit back and do that and say, see, you not right with YAH, you not keeping the law because you don't have these on. But yet these same men who have these things on, they say, oh, it's for the culture, it's for them to know who the servants of Yahuwah, when the law says they were for you not to go after your own heart, to go a whoring. That's what they were for. They would cause you to remember to have the mind of Yahuwah, to have his heart and not follow your own heart. All right. That's what they were for. That's all they were for. That's the only purpose that they serve. Okay, when you turn around and you look at the locks, the first thing dudes like to run to is Numbers chapter 6 and say, I took a Nazarite vow. Alright, cool. You say you done separated yourself to Yahuwah. That's great. What need is it for you to separate yourself to Yahuwah when you're supposed to be separated to Yahuwah by the body of Mashiach? So therefore a Nazarite vow serves you no purpose. Serves you no purpose. Because this man's body has already sanctified you and set you apart to Yahuwah. You need not made a vow for that. He made a vow for that. See, this like this here, right? When you get immersed, you have taken a Nazarite vow. How have you taken a Nazarite vow when you get immersed? Because Hamashiach had already sanctified himself by taking a vow that he would die. He had already done that. So when he actually went and died, this sanctified you to Yahuwah. Therefore, when you get immersed and you become a partaker of his death, you have by reason of that made a Nazarite vow. So when they turn around and they read those epistles of Paul and he said, hey man, it's a dishonor for a man to have long hair. First thing they scream is, that's not in the law. He made that up. Yet they say that they believe. It's different if they don't believe in the quote unquote Brit Kadesh, New Covenant, Renewed Covenant, whatever. It doesn't make them different. But for those who say they do, they don't sit back and say, okay, why does he say that? Instead of dealing with the fact, if this man is telling you that this will dishonor your head, and Yahuwah is your head, that don't bother you? You're not sitting back looking at, I could lose my life behind that, behind rebellion, and I'm not even seeking to find out why he said that. Why did he say this? Where did he get this from? Because Paul couldn't have wrote this on his own volition. And if it was of his own volition, he would have said this has been in my opinion. But then you got to look at the key point. The people who he wrote this epistle letter to, they had to already have been taught where that came from for him to even make that statement. He had already had taught them that. How do we know he had already taught them that? Because earlier in that epistle letter, he told them to hold on to the ordinances as he had delivered them to them. So that means he had already taught them this. He had already taught them the law. He already had taught them to Tanakh. So therefore, they were abreast of what he was saying and what he meant. We the ones don't know. So we say he don't know what he talking about, and we putting our own souls at risk because we don't believe what's written. So then when we see in Ezekiel 44, this man say, don't do it, we won't toss that to the side. We won't toss it to the side. Oh, that doesn't mean that. When it's y'all saying, no, don't do that. Don't do it. Now, what are we going to do with that? Most dudes don't want to deal with that because they want to claim culture. Screw culture. Your culture is Yahuwah. He is your culture. Not some outward thing. That's what the master meant when he say you have an outward form of righteousness, but inwardly you're full of dead man bones and hypocrisy and all manner of iniquity. And we know iniquity takes us back to lawlessness, which takes us back to idolatry, which means you mind your own belly and you mind earthly things, which shows you the seed of the serpent in Genesis chapter 3 when he cursed the serpent to go upon his belly all his days, because all you want to do is what you want to do. And he said, you know what, I'm not going to always strive with you on that. I'm not going to contend and judge you. I'm going to send somebody else to do it. And they going to do it. Now, I mentioned something. Don't remember what it was. We'll go to John chapter 8 though. And what we leading up to is what we're going to get to Genesis chapter 6 before we transition. But so you can see the mind and heart of your Elohim, how he feels about your transgressions, how he feels about your flaunting of his word. John chapter 8 verse 10. Listen to what the master said. When Yahushua had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Have no man condemned thee? She said, No man, master. And Yahushua said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. Again, for those of you who don't know, that's in Psalms when he say, if he was to mark sin, who shall stand before him? But there's forgiveness with him, and that he might be feared. Because if that's, remember, all these people walked off when he said, He that's without sin cast the first stone, because that's why they walked away. That's why he said what he said, because if he marked sin, no one could stand. See, and that comes in on when you actually know the scriptures, then you actually know why that happened, and then you wouldn't be ignorant to quote that and say he without sin cast the first stone. You would know why he said it, and you just wouldn't throw that out there when somebody points out that a particular behavior could cost you your life. Hello? Hello? All right. Consider, think. Nothing in the quote unquote second half of the book is by accident. Think. He told them that because the book said no one would be able to stand if he marked it. Because if he marked that woman's sin, he had to mark all the rest of their sins so none of them could stand. But they were supposed to understand and see that this man has loving kindness or mercy with him so that you would actually respect him. See, y'all don't actually respect the man. That's why you can go back and do something again, or you can see the word say that this particular behavior or this particular act or whatever the case may be is not just in their eyesight because you don't respect him. See, you can make your mouth fry fish and you can talk till your butt catch fire. But if you respect the man, you're gonna do what the man say. You're gonna show him that level of respect. See, you want this man to respect you, but you don't respect him. It don't work that. It doesn't work that way. I don't know where you get that from. And it's funny because you want people to respect you. You want natural people to respect you, but you can't respect your Elohim though, because it's always got to be what you want. Like somebody asked you. I don't know where we got it in our mind as if this man is here to dictate, to give us what we want when we want it, and to let us do what we want when we want to do it, and then we throw temper tantrums and get upset because we can't. Because somebody shows you out the word that's something that you want to do, you can't do it. Then it's this person's agenda instead of looking at what's written in the text and following the person who you claim you love. You know what I'm saying? Because truth be told, I'm speaking for me. The book say what it say. You can do what you want to do. You know what I'm talking about? I ain't got to stand before this man on your behalf because I done told you. You know what I'm saying? Once I done told you and showed you, I'm not going to go to hell for you for not telling you and showing you. You can do what you want to do. I'm not going to keep telling you to do something. You know what I'm saying? You seen it out the word. The word has bear witness against you. It's on you what you're going to do. Because it's only one. And I just had the conversation the other day. We talked about this too. When he said, get rid of the fornicator. And like I told y'all before, when people look at you start cutting people off who are in the word, they look at it, oh, you in a cult. When really it's to remove the bad influence from amongst the people. That's all it's for. And that's in the law. Can get this evil from among you that others may fear or reverence or respect him, to know this man don't play that and he don't want that in his sanctuary, in his sanctum, in his circle. He don't want that around him. And it's funny because y'all will cut people off who do all manner of things of you in the sense of the world. But we don't want to cut off people from us that go contrary to the word on a habitual basis. We seem like, you ain't supposed to do people like that. Doesn't make sense. It don't make sense. Has to be done because evil communications corrupt good manners. We've been looking at all these kings of Yasharal. We just read Wednesday how he said the leaders of the people calls them to err. And you can see how iniquity can ruin and influence other people. That's why he tell them to dip. Or to tell you to get rid of them. Anyway. Where we at? Verse 12. Then spake Yahushua again unto them, saying, I am the light of the world. He that follow me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Pharisees therefore said unto him, Thou bear record of thyself, thy record is not true. Yahushua answered and said unto them, Though I bear record of myself, yet my record is true. For I know whence I came and whither I go. But you cannot tell whence I come and whither I go. You judge after the flesh, I judge no man. And yet if I judge, my judgment is true. For I am not alone, but I and the Father that have sent me. Matter of fact, I went a little too high, but nevertheless, drop down to verse 24. 21 actually. Then said Yahushua again unto them, I go my way, and you shall seek me, and shall die in your sins. Whither I go, you cannot come. Then said the Yahudim, will he kill himself? Because he said, whither I go, you cannot come. He said unto them, you are from beneath, and I am from above. You are of this world, I am not of this world. I have said therefore unto you that you shall die in your sins. If you believe not that I am he, ye shall die in your sins. See, if you believe in this man as the scripture have said, then therefore the just shall live by their faith, and the manifestation of your faith will be manifest. See, because Adam did not believe, he died in that sin. And that didn't please Yahuwah. Yahuwah had no desire to do that. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. So just knowing you don't believe, and your belief would be manifested through your actions, you will die in that sin because you hate him, therefore you love death, therefore you love the terror, which is reason why the master kept telling you there shall be wailing and gnashing of teeth, because there will be sorrow. Hello?
Yeah, that's bad.
What's going on, man? There will be sorrow. Straight sorrow. Ecclesiastes chapter 7. Verse 25. I applied my heart to know and to search and to seek out wisdom and the reason of things, and to know the wickedness of folly, even of foolishness and madness. And I find more bitter than death the woman, whose heart is as snares and nets, and her hands are as bands. Whoso please Elohim shall escape from her, but the sinner shall be taken by her. And behold, this have I found, saith the preacher, counting one by one, to find out the account, which yet my soul seek, but I find not. And one man among 1,000 have I found, but a woman among all those I have not found. Lo, this only have I found. The Elohim have made man upright, but they have sought out many inventions. So it's man that seeks out. Remember, the book tells you in James chapter 1, but starting at about verse 12, that this man tell you that a man is drawn away and enticed by his own lust. So the things that you go do are the things that you want to do. Now the word here for invention in this particular verse is kishavan, and it's a device or an invention. And you know what that takes us back to? The things that he hates, and that's a mind that devises wicked imaginations, a mind that is always conceiving to do things that are contrary to the word, which takes us back to what? 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 4, that you need to bring into captivity every single solitary thought into the obedience of Mashiach. Because if you always devising wicked imaginations, then you will follow after your own lust, and when you follow after your own lust, you will die for it. Let's look at it anyway. James chapter 1 verse 12. Let's just look at it anyway. And to speed this process up, what I'm talking about, when you go read John chapter 5, the master said how the Father put all judgment into his hand, and that the Father judges no man, but the Son do. The same way in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, Paul wrote to the Thessalonians that you had not been appointed to wrath, but to salvation by way of Yahushua HaMashiach, because the Father's not going to contend and judge you anymore. He's placed that into the hands of his Son. You have to consider that. He didn't tell you no lie. He put that in the hands of his Son. Go read John chapter 5 and you see the same thing. James chapter 1 verse 12. Baruch is the man that endured temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which Yahuwah hath promised to them that love him. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of Elohim, for Elohim cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempt he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Remember, hello? Hello? So, remember when the master said that you are those who were with me in my temptations. That means that him being a carnal man or natural man, that he could have been enticed and drawn away by his own desires, but yet he crucified those desires and did not follow after them. See, the tool for defeating the flesh and the tool for defeating sin is the disciplined obedience to the word. It's really just that simple. It's really just, how strong is your hope in the reward of Elohim? It's just that simple. If if your trust and hope and the reward of Elohim is that strong, then there's nothing that could pull you to go against the word, no matter what comes in your way, because the word will consistently come to your heart and come to your mind. It'll bring comfort to your soul. If your faith is strong, if your faith is weak, and there's no one to strengthen you in that time, let's say like how that Malachim strengthened YAHUAH, then there's no telling what you may do. That's why the book say two is better than one. That's why the book says I'm a companion of all those that fear thee. That's why he tell you if you in a weak state, a sinner can't help you. All they're going to do is damn you, because they have no strength. What strength can they give you? What can they do for you? They can't do anything for you. Do you know what I'm saying? They can't give you what you're looking for, because they don't possess it. They don't have it. This is why the word says, I am a companion of those who fear thee, respect thee, reverence thee, honor thee. That's what you need to get in your mind when you hear the word fear in the book. Respect, reverence, honor. When we was raised up in the streets, man, a lot, and every dude I knew wasn't on that, but I ran across a couple who were. It was always about being honorable. You know what I'm saying? Being a man of honor, a man of dignity and respect. And I can tell you that in these days and times and in this world, honor and dignity are not things that are taught. People don't move, they don't live by that. They pull sucker moves, they pull chump moves. They're not men of honor. That men, honestly, in another world, when I say another world, not another world like literal sense, but in another society or culture of how you live. Not like, if you understand what I'm saying, they will have bullets put in their head, as they should, because they're not men worthy of living. A man that is a man of no honor, a man of no respect, does not deserve to live, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? That has nothing to do with being hard, being a killer. You know what I'm saying? None of that. Being a man of honor and respect is just about being a man. There's a lot of dishonorable men walking this planet, or should I say this earth, or the lands of this earth. A lot of dishonorable men. A lot of men who are not men of respect, who deserve not to breathe. The most despicable thing you could ever encounter is a man of low degree. And I ain't talking about low degree because of poverty or what's the word I'm looking for? Or societal status. Talking about a base man, a son of Belial, if you will, a worthless man. Because a man without honor and respect is truly worthless. What purpose does he serve upon the earth other than to take up oxygen that could better be served for someone else? Straight up and down. You know what I'm saying? And that's how we have to look at sin, because when we sin, remember, reproach means a dishonor, which means therefore we're no longer people of honor. We're no longer people of respect. That's why he says sin is a reproach to any people. It's a dishonor. That's how you have to look at these things. That's why he say, he that honor me, my Father will honor also. Hello?
Hey, Cap.
Hey, what's up? That's how we have to look at this. Sin is dishonor. And as we've already seen, those that sin against him love death. Therefore, the word tells you a dishonorable man or woman is not worthy to breathe. You're not worthy to breathe. Then maybe you could understand this man's mercy and his loving kindness and his forgiveness when it is extended unto you. Matter of fact, let me finish this and we'll read Hebrews chapter 4. Then when lust hath conceived, it bring forth sin, and sin, when it is finished, bring forth death. Do not err, my beloved brethren. Let's look at Hebrews chapter 4, but since I mentioned what I just said about you not being worthy to breathe. Hebrews 4 and 12. But then knowing and understanding that there is some mercy, what you ought to do, knowing this, because every last one of us committed sin. He said, anybody said that I had not sinned, he's a liar. The truth is not in him. So all of us know that we needed this man's favor, this man's mercy, and this man's forgiveness. Now, when he extends it unto you, are you going to be an idiot? Or will you understand the gift that is presented before you and run towards that throne to receive it? For the word of Elohim is quick and powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the dividing asunder of nephash and ruach, and of the joints and marrow, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the heart. See, and that goes back to what I mentioned earlier. Man has sought out many inventions. Because when that word comes, it's going to show the inventions of your heart. If it's something that you like to do and that word pop up and say you can't do it, you're going to figure out whatever type of invention you can come out, whatever imagination, whatever device you can come up with in your mind to say why you can. You're going to do it. And you are abominable. because you devise wicked imaginations. You have wicked thoughts. You have wicked devices in your heart because you are rebellious, because you are stubborn, because you are froward. You have to look at that, because you can do whatever it is you want to do. I promise you can. Do you know what I'm saying? But that don't mean that this man is going to allow you in his kingdom if you do so, because you can definitely do whatever you want to do. But that does not mean that you will skirt the consequences of your behavior. And that's whether they be positive or whether they be negative. There is no skirting those consequences. And you can make it seem like I'm trying to do this. I know people are, you're trying to scare people with hell. I'm trying to scare you to save your soul. That's what the man said. We persuade men. He said we all got to stand before the judgment seat of Mashiach. Therefore, knowing this terror, we persuade men. My objective is to persuade you to get on the right hand side and not on the left hand side. But whatever you choose to do, that's your choice at the end of the day. I can't force you. And I definitely not going to run behind you. Because this man said if they will not receive the word of your testimony, then dust your feet off against them as a testimony against them. Ain't going to beg you. We can see all through the word where y'all begged and pleaded and begged and pleaded. And the people still continually did what they wanted to do. So if just like he told Ezekiel, he said they're not going to hear you, Ezekiel, because they don't hear me. Now, what that tell you? So if you're preaching the word, what that tell you when Yah himself is telling a priest and a prophet, oh, they ain't going to hear you, baby. He said, you know why they ain't going to hear you? Because they don't hear me. Now, you think about that. Go read Ezekiel chapter 2 if you think I'm just talking. Go read Ezekiel chapter 3 if you think I'm just talking. That's what the man said. That's what he told him. He said, they're not going to hear you. He said, these are impudent people, hard-hearted people. He said, they're not going to hear you because they don't hear me. So if my Elohim telling me that the people ain't heard him, I know full well they ain't gonna hear nothing I say, no matter what I say out of his word. If they ain't gonna hear him, some of y'all can have y'all stand right in front of you himself, manifest himself in all his esteem. You fall down on your face, terrified by the boo-boo on yourself, crying and boo-hooing, and that man can tell you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you gonna walk away from the man and go do exactly what you want to do. After you seen all that, you'll tell everybody what you seen, but you gonna tell them, yeah, man, he told me to do this here and do this here, and they gonna look you in your face and be like, well, why you ain't do it? Shoot, I ain't feel like it. I wanted to go do that. And how do we know that? Because Adam looked y'all right in the face and he told him exactly what to do, and Adam went and did the opposite. So don't tell me that you wouldn't do any different if he appeared before you. The likelihood of you doing the same is the same if your heart and your mind's not right. Neither is there any creature that is not manifest in his sight, but all things are naked and open unto the eyes of him whom we have to do. Seeing then that we have a great high priest that is passed into Shamahim, Yahushua, the son of Elohim, let us hold fast our profession. For we have not a high priest which cannot be touched with the feelings of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted like as we are, yet without sin. Why was he without sin? Because he did not let himself be drawn away by the desires of the flesh. That's it. No, it's not magic. It's not some super duper great formula. It's very, very simple. He disciplined himself and allowed the word or the ruach to be in control of his desires versus his desires to be in control of him. That's it. That's it. That's just really, it's just that simple. Will you allow the word to control your desires to be in obedience to the word, or will you allow your desires to control you to the obedience of death? That choice is up to you. I can't make it for you, just like you can't make it for me. You can't make it for your children. You can't make it for anybody. And if you had wisdom and you seen that a person chose to make that their desires would control them, what would you do with them after the fact? Would you continue? You think you're going to love them to salvation? You can't love someone to salvation who don't love y'all. That's dumb and retarded. You know what I'm saying? You think you can love them to faith? You can't love someone to believe in something that they don't believe, nor trust, nor hope in. You can't do it. You can't do it. Because y'all loved us. And we still didn't believe. Y'all tried to love us to save ourselves, and we still chose death. You read about it in the wilderness in the law all the time. So what did he do? You won't enter into my rest. He had to cast them off. And sometimes you have to make that choice, because if you say the book says that ye are gods, then you have to think like how God thinks. And you have to move like he moves. And that's what people don't want to do, because we have emotional attachments to people, places, and things. Yah has no emotional attachment to anyone. He has spiritual attachments to people, but he has no emotional attachments to anyone. No one. He didn't even have an emotional attachment to his son. He chastised and beat his son with the rod to save his soul from Sheol, from the grave. He had no emotional attachment. This is my son. He wore him out. He wore him out. He had no emotional attachments to Yasharal. They bucked him. He threw them out and allowed their enemies to overtake them and to destroy them. He didn't want to do it, but he didn't have any emotional attachments to stop him from doing what had to be done and for him to rule correctly according to the word. And that's what we have to do. It seems cold and it seems callous, but it's not. It's just judgment. That's all it is. You have to learn how to remove emotions out of judgment. Emotions have no place in judgment. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. Emotions serve no purpose in judgment, because that will cause you to judge according to how you feel, which means wrong judgment will proceed. That's what happened when, as Habakkuk the prophet stated, and this is how the master was killed, because envy and jealousy and malice reigned, which are emotions, and this is how the wrong judgment proceed when these people brought this man before Pilate saying to crucify him. So that is an example to show you emotions cannot dictate judgment. That's why the master said, you judge after the flesh. I judge no man. He said, you judge after appearance. Don't judge after appearance, because you'll be judging according to your emotions and how you feel versus what's written. That's how you learn to discern. Can't go by how you feel when dealing with judgment of YAHUAH. You can go by how you feel in certain other matters, but not with judgment though. Not with judgment though. You have to be emotionless in judgment. No emotion in judgment. It can't happen. You'll judge wrong. What it is, verse 16. Let us therefore come boldly unto the throne of favor, that we may obtain mercy and find favor to help in the time of need. Knowing this, that even with all this death that is on us and all this sin, that this man has offered himself and resisted sin, and you need to run to that throne. You need to run to that mercy seat and throw yourself down before it and beg, plead, and pray that he'll have mercy upon you according to his great name. And then after that, ain't no turnaround going back and do the same thing. Don't sit back and tell me you repented and you went back and did the same thing. You ain't repented. You just threw a platitude out there, a fake I'm sorry. Because repent means to turn. You ain't repented if you turn right back around and did it again. You could say that. That's nigga talk. That's nigga behavior. You know what I'm saying? Can't make them type of excuses. I repented, but I did. If you repented, you don't do it no more. Period. You know what I'm saying? And we have to look at, there needs to be a changing of the heart versus just saying I'm sorry or doing something that make it feel like, okay, if I don't do this no more, then I ain't got no problem. If I do this, then I ain't got to worry about this sin, when your heart is not changed, because your heart is the issue. It's your heart. It is your heart. It is your heart. That is the issue. That is what will predicate your salvation. Is your heart, your mind, your thoughts, your ways, and your doings emanate from that. That's why this man say, guard your heart, for the issues of life proceed from it. You have to protect your brain. That's why he told you to put on the helmet of salvation. That's how you protect your brain. That's why he told you to put on the breastplate of righteousness. That's how you protect your heart. You're not protecting it. You're not putting the armor on. You're not putting the word on. Therefore, you are susceptible. You have no protection. We don't take it as seriously and literally as we should. Now, let's go back to Genesis chapter 6. I mentioned some other things. I can't remember what they were. So, we seen in verse 3 how he said he would. Oh, yeah. Let me get this psalm set. Psalms 90. Psalms 90. It's just something for us to consider and to weigh. Because y'all willing, when we actually turn around and start, when we finish with these kings and we go to looking at in the law, we're really, 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 really prayerfully, most high willing, focus on judgment, because we'll be looking at the law. And you going to learn what's right and what's wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we're going to go through that law and you're going to learn it. You're going to know. And you will not be with excuse. Knowing that he's given us such a magnificent opportunity, an opportunity of a lifetime, of which many men do not get to receive. And when I say men, women are included. You know what I'm saying? Which means, therefore, your children are included. An opportunity that many, many people do not get to receive. What are you going to do with that opportunity? See, opportunity met with preparation equals success. Now, of course, none of us were prepped and prepared for this particular opportunity of hearing the gospel. But then you get to hear the gospel, and now what are you going to do with that? Are you going to prepare yourself to be able to receive, to have the opportunity to receive eternal life? Because that's what you're hearing the gospel for, to prep yourself to receive eternal life. Where is your preparation? Where is your dedication? Where is your consistency? Where is your discipline? Where is your faith? Where is your hope? Where is your trust? Where is your sanctification? Where is your cleanliness? Where is it at? Are you going to let an opportunity such as this slip through your fingers for being stubborn and rebellious? Are you going to let an opportunity such as this slip through your fingers to be carnal? What is it in this life? What is it that you're doing or want to do that is so great and so powerful that you could let an opportunity like this slip through your fingers? What person in your life is that important that you would let an opportunity, yourself included, you know what I'm saying, is that important that you'll let an opportunity such as this slip through your fingers? How would you feel knowing that as you were standing in the line to stand before this throne, that you let this opportunity slip through your fingers because you were an imbecile, an idiot, a simpleton, a fool, if you will? How would like think about that? Because clearly 9 times out of 10 you're not going to be thinking about that while you're actually going to stand before the throne. But just try to envision that and encapsulate that in your mind at this particular time. Just sit there and think about it. How dumb you had to feel, that you may feel. How stupid you have to be to know that you had an opportunity of a lifetime and you let it slip through your fingers because you were rebellious and stubborn. Why? Think about that. You need to let that resonate in your brain. That you stand to be cast into a lake where the worm dive not and the fire shall not be quenched. And you had the opportunity to avoid it. And you turned it down. And you turned it down. You turned it down. I don't see the wisdom in that. I don't see the wisdom in that. Not at all. Nevertheless, Psalms 90. Verse 7, I suppose. For we are consumed by thy anger, and by thy wrath are we troubled. Thou hast set our iniquities before thee, our secret sins in the light of thy countenance. Let's take it back to what we're talking about. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and look at that. Pause. Let's show you how he set your secret sins in the light of his countenance. Let's see how he set your secret sins in the light of his countenance. Hold this and swing to Ecclesiastes chapter 8 real quick. Just real quick. Ecclesiastes chapter 8. Might well do it. Ain't gonna hurt nobody. Ecclesiastes chapter 8. These are verses. That's not the verse that I decided. Oh yes, verse 1. Ecclesiastes 8 and 1. And then Matthew chapter 17. And then Leviticus chapter 19. And then Revelation chapter 20. Well, before Revelation 20, 2 Corinthians chapter 5. I'll renumerate those again though. He say, who is as the wise man, and who knows the interpretation of a thing? A man's wisdom makes his face to shine, and the boldness of his face shall be changed. Now you know Moses' face changed, right? It shined decent. He say wisdom and will make a man's face to shine. Wisdom will make a man's face to shine. This man said the light in the light of his countenance will your secret sins be exposed. Let's look at Leviticus 19. Oh yeah, praise the Lamb. I do it like that too. Just bear with me because I got another something extra came in the course of this action. How we gonna do this? Leviticus 19. Leviticus 19 and what? 27? No, not 27. There it is. 30. Never mind. Just 30. 30. Ye shall keep my Shabbats and reverence my sanctuary. I am Yahuwah. Regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Thou shalt rise up before the hoary head and honor the face of the old man and fear thy Elohim. I am Yahuwah. Now we know Revelation tells us how this man hair looked like wool, and he's the same as the Ancient of Days. He said you're going to rise up before that. Let's swing over here to Luke chapter 12. Luke chapter 12, and after Luke chapter 12, 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Luke 12 and 3. He said the light of his countenance is going to pull out your secret sins. Now we talking about on Judgment Day. He ain't necessarily talking about right now. We'll start at 12 and 1. In the meantime, when there were gathered together innumerable multitude of people, insomuch that they trode one upon another, he began to say unto his disciples, first of all, beware ye of the leaven of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. For there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. Therefore, whatsoever ye have spoken in darkness shall be heard in the light, and that which you have spoken in the ear in the closet shall be proclaimed upon the housetops. Now remember, say the face of a man causing to shine. Remember, he said he will not always strive with man. Therefore, he said, I'm not going to always judge and contend with man. 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 10. So we know who's going to strive and contend with you, because Abba not doing it. He ain't doing it. He said somebody, he was telling you way back then he was going to set somebody up to do it, because he said, I'm not going to always do this. I got somebody else going to do it for me. 2 Corinthians 5 and 10, but we'll use verse 8. He said, we are confident, I say, and willing rather to be absent from the body, to be present with the master. Wherefore we labor that we present, whether present or absent, we may be accepted of him. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Mashiach, that every one may receive the things done in his body, according to that he have done, whether it be good or bad. See, that goes back to what we were talking about last Shabbat in Leviticus 27, about the priests were estimated. He will judge whether it's good or bad. How is he going to be able to judge whether it's good or bad? He's going to judge it according to your deeds. And the light of his countenance, or the light of his face, is going to make manifest what's in that, because he said there's nothing hidden that will not be revealed. Anything that you did to the dark will be brought manifest by the light of his countenance, because his face will shine upon your sins. Why? Because 2 Chronicles tells you that the eyes of Yahuwah run to and fro throughout the arats, or throughout the earth, to show himself strong in behalf of those whose heart is perfect towards him, because there's nothing that is hidden from his eyesight. Knowing therefore the terror of the master, we persuade men, but we are made manifest unto Elohim, and I trust also are made manifest in your consciences. Revelation chapter 20 and verse 12. So this is why he sat back and said this. Is why we're looking at that Psalms 90, because he said, "You say he has set our iniquities before thee, our secret sins in the light of his countenance." It's right there before him. All he's going to do is just make it open. So also, and that takes you to the point of when you get immersed, why you see and it's also in the law too, of why you confess your sins. You're confessing your sins for one reason alone. Because when you hear what you have done, you are actually professing that I am dying to this behavior and will no longer live for it any longer. I no longer am going to live under death and the subjugation and the captivity of it. It's not just something to do just to do. You got to understand the ramification of every act, every move. Because there's all plenty of examples of our people confessing their sins all throughout this book. You're confessing it, one, because you're confessing it also before the throne, that he may have mercy on you, because you're pleading for the king to have mercy on you and stating, this is what I've done. I'm not worthy of your mercy. I seek your mercy and pray that you extend it. That's the purpose of doing it. We don't look at all these things because we come forward in the word with the wrong mentality and the wrong thought process. Because that's why he said, how can you believe that seek honor one of another and not the honor that comes from Elohim only? We too worried about the people around us. The people around you cannot save you. So you shouldn't be seeking honor from them. You shouldn't be seeking respect from them. You know what I'm saying? Not from them first. You should be seeking that from Yah first. If you are a man or woman of honor and dignity and respect, the people around you will honor and respect you on the strength of that. Straight up and down. You know what I'm saying? They will respect and honor you on the strength of that. If you're not a person of honor, dignity, and respect, then of course people will not respect you. Most of the time when people are always seeking honor and respect from men is because they have insecurities and low self-esteem, of which they have not dealt with. So therefore they're seeking validation from other people. But the book tells you to pour your heart out to Yahuwah, for he is a refuge for you. He's a safety place. He's a sanctuary, a place of rest. Seek him. Then he'll direct you to people in the word. That's why I told y'all last week, we have a longer patience with sinners than you say to people who's supposed to be your brothers and sisters. Why do we not extend that when the law tells us we're not supposed to bear no grudge? The law tells us we're supposed to forgive each other. The law tells us we're supposed to love each other. We don't do none of that. Do it with a sin and a heartbeat. Where they do that at? How does that work? How does that work? You know what I'm saying? I know some people might look at me and think I don't hold grudges against nobody. Truth be told, somebody could do something and they be forgiven for it before they even did it, because it's not an issue for me. But that ain't because of the word necessarily, because I had that type of heart before the word. You know, you do what you do, it is what it is. I may not mess with you after that though. You know what I'm saying? Meaning, when I say mess with you, meaning mess with you in a particular sense to where I trust you fully. If you cross me, like you literally did something like, dang, I done lost respect for you. That doesn't mean I'm going to treat you with malice. That's not going to mean I'm going to treat you with bitterness. I'm going to walk around with that. It's just that the nature of the relationship can never be the same. You know what I'm saying? If a nigga done robbed you, meaning stole something from you, your relationship with that person is not going to be the same. You know what I'm saying? The love still may be there. I still have love for you. But you know what I'm saying? I can't do the things that we did before you did that. You know what I'm saying? And then also, like I told you before, the most extreme case is if you won't hear your brother and you won't hear 2 or 3 witnesses and you won't hear the body, then that man say treat him like a heathen man and a publican. That means I don't deal with you at all. Just like the law tell you to do. The law tell you don't deal with no heathen man. That's what that means. But that's only because a person has shown an imputed, hard, rebellious, stubborn heart. Because Yah's not going. You have to sit back and look at that. All he telling you to do is what he does. If Yah send a prophet to testify against you and you don't want to hear that, then he'll send 2, 3 more prophets. And if you don't want to hear that, he'll send the whole congregation. He'll send whatever. And then he done with you. All he telling you to do is what he do. If you don't want to listen, then I'm done with you. Because all he wants you to do is be reconciled unto him. That's all he's telling you to do in that Matthew 18, for people to reconcile. But niggas don't want to reconcile because they holding grudges and bitterness in their heart. That's retarded. That means you can't be saved. You say you don't forgive your brother, he ain't gonna forgive you. And if you got bitterness and grudges in your heart, then then you ain't forgave nobody. You ain't forgave them. Because if you forgave them, there would be no grudge and there would be no bitterness. You wouldn't be there. 20 and 12. Bang.
Dialing is outside of your plan and will incur a 1 cent
Hold
per
on 1
minute
second, they
charge
call
if you
dropped.
continue. You can hang up now to avoid the charge. Welcome. There are 5 participants in the conference. Please announce yourself.
All right, y'all. That call had dropped. Hold on. All right. That call had dropped. I don't know what happened with that. Good grief, man. What's you doing? And then her call hung up. Hold on, man.
Forwarded.
Yeah, that call dropped, man. Yeah, I don't know what happened with that. Alright, I got you. Yeah, your call had hung up. I don't know what happened with that. Alright, hold on one more time. Alright, I was just finna call your phone. Call had dropped. So, we got to think about that when we talk about forgiveness and things of that nature. Man, your call dropped again? That's all we got to wait it out. Because you know, this is our soul we talking about. This is our soul we talking about. Revelation 20 and 12. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what call was dropping. I can't really explain that. I didn't have nothing to do with that. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before Elohim, and the books were open, and another book was open, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the book according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire. So, you When we stand before that throne, all those secret sins will be made manifest. Let's go back to Genesis chapter 6. We can crank this up. Finish this particular matter. Went a little longer on that than I thought, but praise Yah for YAHUAH. Nevertheless, hopefully it helps every last one of us. Nevertheless, verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of old, men of renown. I don't know where people sit back when we look at the construct of an English sentence, or they sit back and think that the sons of God had giants with the daughters of men when it says after that and also after that. Not saying that this particular mating produced giants. Nevertheless, and Elohim saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thought of his heart was only evil continually. So that's the point of what we were looking at in Ecclesiastes chapter 7, that man sought out many inventions, because it says the imagination of the thoughts, the devices in man's heart was evil continually. That's all he dwelt on was evil things. Again, referencing the Proverbs 4:23, guard your heart. Bring every thought into the captivity or the obedience of Mashiach. But this is what we came here for, which was verse 6. And it repented Yahuwah that he made man on the earth, and it grieved him at his heart. When we look at the word for repent in this particular verse, it is nakam, and it means to be sorry or to console oneself, to regret, to comfort, to be comforted, to be moved to pity, and to have compassion, to be sorry. It made him sad. Do you know what I'm saying? This is what you're looking at. It made him sad. And when we look at grieved, that word is a sob, and it means to pain, to vex, to be in pain, to be grieved, displeased, hurt. Say it hurt him. It said it hurt him at his heart, the behavior of man. And he wiped him out after this. Not wiping him out because he just was so angry and mad that he was just that sad. Let's go over here to Ezekiel chapter 18. So when we sit back and we look at these things, this is what we don't understand, that when we sin against Yahuwah, it actually makes him sad. It makes him sad. It hurts him. Do you know what I'm saying? This is why the epistle letters state that when you sin against Mashiach and you taking the bread and the wine unworthily, that you're guilty of his death. Because remember, when he got ready to die, he was exceedingly sorrowful even unto death. Why was he exceedingly sorrowful even unto death? Because he was about to die, because he was pained because of man. He was dying because of the sins of man. It grieved him. It made him sorry. It made him sad. That when you say not an emotion as a similar to the man, but the sadness and sorrow because of what men were doing, because he know what he got to do to him. Do you know what I'm saying? What the purpose of the matter, what we finna look at in Ezekiel 18 is, Yah has no pleasure in doing anything to anyone as far as evil is concerned. He doesn't derive pleasure from that. That's why he said he is slow to wrath, because it saddens him to have to do it. He does not want to do that to you. He has no desire to cast you into the lake. He has no desire to bring any calamities upon your head. He does not desire to do that. He say, turn you at my reproof and hear my words, and you shall live. This is what he told you. But he said you didn't want to do it. So he said, I got to bring your fears upon you. And when your calamity come, I will laugh at you. And when your fear come, I will mock you. (18) and what? 24? 23 actually. Listen what I tell you. Have I any pleasure at all that the wicked should die, saith Yahuwah Elohim, not that he should return from his ways and live? This man doesn't get any desire. He doesn't have any pleasure to do this. Luke chapter 12 tells us that it is the Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. It's his pleasure. It's his desire. When we commit sin, it saddens us because he has to kill you. Because that's what his law say. That's what his judgment say. You think he had pleasure in cutting off Adam and putting him out of the garden? That was not his desire. That did not bring joy to his heart for him to have to do that. The reason why is because we just had the conversation about the flood. people look at it and say he repented, so you thinking it's like he turned and like he wish he didn't make man, when no, he was saddened. He was saddened that he had made man, because what he had to do to his creation. He did not want to have to do that to his creation. He had no choice, and it made him sad in his heart continually to do so. Therefore, he had to send a substitute in his place, in the place of man, so therefore that he could save his creation, because he knew what he would have to do in the long run if he did not. We'll read Romans chapter 5 after we finish this Ezekiel 18, and we're going to pick it up about verse 30. Therefore I will judge you, O house of Yasharal, every one according to his ways, saith Yahuwah Elohim. Repent and turn yourselves from all your transgressions, so iniquity shall not be your ruin. Cast away from you all your transgressions, whereby you have transgressed, and make you a new heart and a new ruach. For why will you die, O house of Yasharal? For I have no pleasure in the death of him that dieth, saith Yahuwah Elohim. Wherefore turn yourselves and live ye. He had no pleasure in killing these people by that flood. He didn't get no pleasure from that. But his name must be respected. He has no other choice than do that. That's why the book tells you that he is slow to wrath. Do you know how long man was wilding before he actually did that? Let's look at that in 1 Peter chapter 3 before we look at Romans chapter 5. You have to realize how long these people were wilding before he did that. Now, it doesn't give you a time frame, so I just want that to be clear. We're just looking at something in particular. 1 Peter 3 and 20. He say, which sometime, matter of fact, make it 18, I apologize. For Mashiach also have once suffered for sins, the just for the unjust, that he may bring us to Elohim, being put to death in the flesh, but quickened by the Ruach, by which also he went and preached unto the Ruachs in prison, which sometimes were disobedient, when once the long suffering of Elohim waited in the days of Noah, while the ark was a preparing, wherein that is 8 souls were saved by water. The like figure whereunto even immersion doth not so save us, not the putting away of the filth of the flesh, but the answer of a good conscience towards Elohim by the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach, who is gone into Shamahim and is on the right hand of Elohim, Malachim and authorities and powers being made subject unto him. When this man tell you that not putting away of the filth of the flesh, meaning when you get immersed, that does not mean that the desires and the lust of the flesh or the filthiness, because remember Paul told you that in his flesh dwell no good thing. The flesh does not go away because you're immersed. It says it gives you a good conscience or a good mind towards Elohim, because your mind is set on resisting the flesh and the ways of this world and living towards Elohim through manifesting of the resurrection of Yahushua HaMashiach, or living unto life, or living unto the word, and no longer living unto your desires, because you have died to sin. You have put sin to death. That's what the immersion symbolizes. The same way Mashiach was put to death, you are putting sin to death, because he put sin and death to death by his death. And that's what you're supposed to be understanding when you get immersed. Not just, I just got in some water and got wet. You're saying I'm entering into a covenant by sacrifice or by death, and therefore I shall live unto Elohim as Yahushua lives unto Elohim by his resurrection and sits at his right hand. And then following what Paul wrote to the Colossians, that your mind should be set on the things that are in Shamahim, where Mashiach sit at the right hand of Elohim. But see, we get immersed and our minds are set on the things that are on the earth and not the things that are on high. Therefore we continually walk in carnal and fleshly ways, seeking a spiritual reward of which we will never attain. That's why I say that which is a flesh is flesh, and that which is a ruach is ruach. Now let's swing over here to Romans chapter 5. So, understanding that it hurts this man to have to execute his wrath upon any man. He has no desire to do this. 5 and 5. You don't have no desire to do this. You got to understand that he does not want any of you to die. We'll read 2 Peter chapter 3 and then we'll get to 2 Kings. He has no desire for anyone to die. He does not desire that. He does not want that. That is not his will. That is not. Don't let nobody tell you that it is his will. Yes, there are vessels fitted for destruction. Yes, there's vessels fitted for mercy. And nevertheless, those vessels that are fitted for wrath but had the same opportunity for mercy, but they rejected it. So therefore, he has to make his power known. And hope make not ashamed, because the love of Elohim is shed abroad in our hearts by the Ruach HaKadosh, which is given unto us. For when we were yet without strength, in due time Mashiach died for the ungodly. For scarcely for a righteous man will one die, yet peradventure for a good man some would even dare to die. But Elohim commend his love towards us, and that while we were yet sinners, Mashiach died for us. Much more then, being now justified by blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. See, there was nobody to stand in that gap during the time of Noah to save those people from that wrath. Therefore, they had to take that. Now you have some, because it said Elohim so loved the world, he gave his only begotten son, that none should perish but have everlasting life. Those who disobeyed the word during the time of the flood perished. Now this man has set something up where you don't have to perish during the time of the flood, because he does not have a desire for you to perish. So he gave you something so you won't perish. Therefore, run to the throne of favor, run to the mercy seat, and seek that salvation. Nevertheless, 2 Peter chapter 3 and then 2 Kings 15. Three and what? Three and what? 3 and 10. Just something to consider. You can do with it what you will. But the day of Yahuwah will come as a thief in the night, in which the Shamahim shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought you to be in all Kadesh behavior and godliness, looking for and hasting unto the coming of the day of Elohim, wherein Shamahim being on fire shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat? Nevertheless, we according to his promise look for new Shamahim and a newer rats, wherein dwell righteousness. Wherefore, beloved, seeing that you look for such things, be diligent that you may be found of him in shalom, without spot and blameless. And account, I think I missed the verse that I wanted. I actually wanted verse 9. My apologies. We'll get verse 7. That's my fault on that. Actually, we're going to back that up and go to verse 5. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of Elohim the Shamahim were of old, and their rats standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. But the Shamahim and the rats, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved under fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. But beloved, be ignorant not of this one thing, that one day is with Yahuwah as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. Yahuwah is not slack concerning his promise, as men count slackness, but is long suffering to us war, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. That goes back to what we read in that first epistle letter of Peter, the long suffering during the preparing of the ark. He had no desire to kill all these people by the flood, but they had no desire to repent. They had no desire to repent. He has no desire to kill anyone in these days and times, but men have no desire to repent. Let's get John chapter 3 before we go to 2 Kings 15. People don't want to turn from their iniquities and their sins, therefore they will perish in it. Yah is the Elohim of life, not death. He doesn't care for death. Remember, it says he destroyed him that had power over death. That is the devil. That is not what this man cares for. But the soul that sinned, it shall die. And if you hate him, then you love death, and he will gladly reward you with it. The choice is yours. And ain't going to be no excuses or justifications in that day for any manner of behavior. You ain't going to be able to shuck and jive or fast talk your way up out of it. Don't let the opportunity slip out of your hands. 3 and 14. And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have eternal life. My apologies. For Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believe in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For Elohim sent not his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He that believe on him is not condemned, but he that believe not is condemned already, because he have not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of Elohim. See, the world beforehand was condemned because the Son was not there to cause them not to perish. So therefore it hurt Yah to take these people out, because they had to perish. All of that was pointing you to something later on, for someone would come in the gap so you would not perish. There was no one to stop the world from perishing other than the deliverance of Noah and his sons and their wives. And his wife, 8 people. There was no one to stand in the gap to save everyone else. Now someone has came to stand in the gap to save everyone else, so that Yah's heart would not be pained and saddened, because he said, I'm not going to strive with you and judge you. I've done that. I'm not doing it again. My son will do it. You got to consider that and weigh that. In the same way, Mashiach don't want to kill you either, but they have no problem doing it. The choice is yours. 2 Kings chapter 15. We look at Jeroboam the second. We got to get one of these guys in here. 2 Kings 15 and 15. It's just to consider. Just weigh that out. Think about it. Think about it. Because it's your life. You know what I'm saying? Think about all the things that we mentioned. Whether we read it or whether a scripture was quoted without us reading it. Because if you know the word, then you would have known when the word was being spoken unto you. You know what I'm saying? So, think about it. Weigh and consider. Because he says he has no pleasure in the death of him that dieth. So turn yourselves and live. It's what you want to do and who you want to be around. Is it worth losing the opportunity to be with Yah? Keep in the back of your mind Ezekiel 48 and 35. Say the name of the city is Yah is there. YAHUAH is there. The tabernacle of Elohim is come down unto men, and he shall dwell with them, and he shall be their Elohim, and they shall be his people. Is anything in this life, and is anyone in this life worth not being with Yah for eternity? That's the question you have to ask yourself included. When I say people, I'm not just talking about every person you deal with. I'm talking about yourself included. Because he said you got to hate your own life also. So yourself included. Because sometimes the biggest problem is not external people. Sometimes the biggest problem is ourselves. Sometimes the person that's enticing you and pulling you off to sin is the wicked imagination and inventions that are popping up in your own mind and no one else. Some people are being enticed and persuaded to do things outside of the word by the people around them, and some people are being enticed by their own desires, which they have not brought in subjection to the word. So you got to ask yourself, is that worth losing this opportunity? Dang, this nigga call dropped again. Hold on. Think about that. Just weigh that out. Just weigh that out. 2 Kings 15 and 16 though. Let's take off with that. Work with that. Alright. Oh, I'm in chapter 14. That might be the problem. I'm sorry, it was chapter 14. That's me tripping. I said 15, but it's 14. Alright. I don't know why your call keep dropping like that. I don't know why it's doing that. 2 Kings 14 and 15. Now the rest of the acts of YAHUAH, which he did, and his might, and how he fought with Amaziah, Malach of Yehudah, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the Malachs of Yasharal? And YAHUAH slept with his fathers and was buried in Samaria with the kings of Yasharal, and Jeroboam his son reigned in his stead. So we see we got a second Jeroboam here. And Amaziah the son of YAHUAH, Malach of Yehudah, lived after the death of YAHUAH son of Yohaz, Malach of Yasharal, 15 years. And the rest of the acts of Amaziah, are they not? We're going to drop on them. We don't need all that. Verse 23, because we ain't dealing with Amaziah tonight. In the 15th year of Amaziah the son of YAHUAH, Malach of Yehudah, Jeroboam the son of YAHUAH, Malach of Yasharal, began to reign in Samaria, and reigned 41 years. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahuwah. He departed not from the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, which made Yasharal to sin. He restored the coast of Yasharal from entering into Hamath unto the sea of the plain, according to the word of Yahuwah Elohim of Yasharal, which he spake by the hand of his servant Jonah the son of Amittai the prophet, which was of Gath Hephar. This the same Jonah in the whale belly, if you didn't know. Same Jonah. Now, is this particular prophecy that he's mentioned, is it written? It's not written in his text. You know what I'm saying? You can go sit back and look at what you look for. You're not going to find it. Nevertheless, you see that Jonah acts also prophesied at the same time. And just so you know that's Jonah for yourself, go get Jonah 1:1, just so you can know that that's the Jonah that's being referred. Now, the hometown of Jonah is that Gath Hefer, and it means the wine press of digging. And it was on the border of Zebulun. So he was from the place of the wine press that was digged. And you notice something just popped in my mind looking at that. So I guess we'll deal with that. Taking that in. And then, Jonah name mean dove. So let's look at old Jonah here 1:1, so you can see that this is him. And you can see how all these men were prophesying at the same time. Oh, 1:1 now. Now the word of Yahuwah came unto Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying. So you can see that this is the same man. That's the only reason we're here, so you can see this is the same man. That you can see that he was prophesying during the times of these kings, along with the rest of them. And that a lot of these prophets followed the same timelines. Because there were many, many prophets. But most of all this stuff is around the same timeline. So a lot of the book focuses on what the kings were doing before this man cast us away. Before our captivity into Babylon and Assyria. And then our return. That's what a lot of the prophets and all this stuff. That's really what a lot of the history of the book focuses on. Is what happened to us leading up to us being taken out of the land. And then us coming back into the land. And then Mashiach. It's not covering every single solitary month, year, day, and week of what we did. Key points of a particular matter is what it's focusing on. Come back to 2 Kings 14. Look at verse 26. Hold on one second. Something just caught my attention. Just want to see what it says. Okay, we good. Verse 26. For Yahuwah saw the affliction of Yasharal, that it was very bitter. For there was not any shut up, nor any left, nor any helper for Yasharal. And Yahuwah said not that he would blot out the name of Yasharal from under Shamahim, but he saved them by the hand of Jeroboam, the son of YAH. Now the rest of the acts of Jeroboam and all that he did in his might, and how he warred, and how he recovered Damascus and Hamath, which belonged to Yehudah for Yasharal, are they not written in the book of the chronicles of the maliks of Yasharal? And Jeroboam slept with his fathers, even with the maliks of Yasharal, and Zechariah his son reigned in his stead. Now we'll look at those things in a moment, most high willing, if we don't run out of time. But I want you to get Hosea 1:1, and I want you to get Amos 1:1. And I want you to see some of the byproduct of the works of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, and the pronouncements and judgments that fell upon our people here. Because he said it wasn't no helper for us, so he saved us. So most high willing, we have to section Jeroboam the second off and look at what he did by delivering us from Damascus and Hamath and that which belonged to Yehudah and Yasharal. Because that's a whole nother matter. And we'll come back and deal with his saving part. But right now we're going to deal with his disobedience and the byproduct of it. Hosea 1:1 first. Well, screw it. I got to Amos first. So we'll go to Amos 1:1 first. I got to Amos first. Yeah. Amos is better. Because it's going to lead me to something else that I had ready. All right. Amos 1:1. The words of Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Yasharal in the days of Uzziah, Malik of Yehudah, and the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, Malik of Yasharal, 2 years before the earthquake. Now I want you to sit back and look at that. And when he say 2 years before the earthquake, and we'll deal with that, I want you to go to Zechariah chapter 14. Matter of fact, hold on. Come on, let me see if it mentioned this earthquake in 2 Chronicles 26 when Uzziah is here. Let me see if that's there. I can't recall if that was there. No. Give me a second. It's not. Zechariah 14. We done dealt with Uzziah in the past. Some of you may remember, some of you may not. Nevertheless, 14 and 4. And after that, Revelation chapter 16 don't roll that. Never mind. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east. And on the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof towards the east and towards the west. And there shall be a great valley, and half the mountain shall remove toward the north, and half of it towards the south. And ye shall flee to the valley of the mountains, for the valley of the mountains shall reach unto Azal. Yea, ye shall flee like as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, Malik of Yehudah. And YAHUAH Elohim shall come, and all the Kadeshim with him. So, when we look at that earthquake, as it's mentioned, as he references this earthquake again here in Zechariah from Amos 1 and 1, he said you would flee and you would run. Why would the people flee and run? Because Revelation 1 and 7, let's see why they would flee and run. Because remember, we kind of read about what he said, how the earth would, the heavens would burn with a fervent heat, and all of these things. And he said everybody would flee and run. Because now, for that purpose, because remember now, I didn't read the verse, the next verse in Zechariah, how he said, at the evening time it shall be light, because now the light of this man's countenance will shine upon the whole earth, and there will be no man that will be hid from him at that time. And that's when they'll turn around and say, let the mountains fall on us, and let us be hid from him, from the face of the Lamb that him is set upon the throne. For the great day of his wrath is come, who shall be able to stand? Revelation 1 and 7. Behold, he come with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, I mean, you're going to hit it. Because it's going to be, it's an earthquake mentioned in Revelation 16, but that's for Babylon. That's why I said, no, that doesn't go with what we're talking about. So, come on back to Amos 1 and 1. So you just need to sit back and understand why he mentioned that why he mentioned before the earthquake during the time of Uzziah. And you seeing how all this stuff interconnects of a particular time period when your forefathers were acting a plumb dumb fool, and he was sending his prophets to bring them back before he took them out of the land. But they did not hearken, they did not listen. Let's look at some of the judgments that he mentioned. Let's look at verse 2 and Amos chapter 1. Let's familiarize ourselves with some of these things if we're not already. And he said, YAHUAH will roar from Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem, and the habitations of the shepherd shall mourn, and the top of Carmel shall wither. See how that takes us what we mentioned, that every eye shall see him. Because remember, he say his voice will roar. Say he will come back with a trumpet and a great shout. He say the lion is raised up out of his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. So even when you see him pronouncing this here against them during this time, it's a foreshadowing of what's to come. That foreshadowing of what's to come is telling you what's going to fall upon you from your disobedience, and no man shall escape. Let's see why. Let's look at verse 3. And let's see this judgment that he's dropping on all of these people during the time of Jeroboam, the son of Joab, Malik of Yasharal. Thus saith YAHUAH, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for 4, I will not turn away of the punishment thereof, because they have threshed Gilead with the threshing instruments of iron. But I will send a fire into the house of Hazael, which shall devour the palaces of Benhadad. And we haven't looked at them, but most high willing, we're going to get to that. So I want y'all to make a note of who Hazael and Benhadad is, because we have to look at them. They play an integral part with a couple of these kings, and we have not zeroed in on them yet. He said, I will also break the bar of Damascus, and cut off the inhabitants from the plain of Avin, and him that hold the scepter from the house of Eden. And the people of Syria shall go into captivity unto Kir, saith YAHUAH. Thus saith YAHUAH, for 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they carried away the whole captivity to deliver them up to Edom. But I will send a fire on the wall of Gaza, which shall devour the palaces thereof. And I will cut off the inhabitant from Ashdod, and him that hold the scepter of Ashkelon. And I will turn my hand against Ekron, and the remnant of the Philistines shall perish, saith YAHUAH Elohim. Thus saith YAHUAH, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remembered not the brotherly covenant. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof. Thus saith Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he's kept his wrath forever. But I will send a fire upon Timon, and shall devour the palaces of Bozrah. Thus saith Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of the children of Ammon, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have ripped up the women with child of Gilead, that they may enlarge their border. But I will kindle a fire in the wall of Rabbah, and it shall devour palaces thereof, with shouting in the day of battle, and with the tempest in the day of the whirlwind. And their Malek shall go into captivity, he and his princes together, saith Yahuwah. Now, most high willing, I'll come back another day and go into great detail. But that last part of what you sit back and see, where you catch you a little vision of something to come. He say the shouting in the day of battle and the tempest of the day of the whirlwind. Know that the book tell you that Yah come in a whirlwind, and in the clouds are the dust of his feet, and that king going to captivity is Hashatan being placed into captivity, and his rulers going with him. Just keep that in mind, Yah willing, when we revisit this. But we just going to listen to all these transgressions, what fall upon these people's head for sin, so you can understand what happens when this man's patience runs out. Continuing in chapter 2. Thus saith Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he burned the bones of the king of Edom into lime. But I will send a fire upon Moab, and it shall devour the palaces of Keroth, and Moab shall die with the tumult, with shouting, and with the sound of the trumpet. And I will cut off the judge from the midst thereof, and will slay all the princes thereof with him, saith Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Yehudah, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have despised the Torah of Yahuwah, and not kept his commandments, and their lies have caused them to err, after the which their fathers have walked. But I will send a fire upon Yehudah, and it shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem. You notice what he said? You despised it, and your lies caused you to do wrong. And you did what your fathers did. And that's where it comes in at, when we dealing with discerning the judgment and knowing what's right in the eyesight of Yahuwah. Because if it's not right in his eyesight, then it's a lie. And these lies will cause you to err. And what caused you to err like your father Adam happened? He hearkened unto a lie. And we've been doing it ever since. Hearkening to lies. The man told you in Jeremiah chapter 7, he said, matter of fact, let's get that. Let's get Jeremiah chapter 7. And after that, Jonah chapter 2. That's why the book say to Satan that the devil is a liar and the father of it. And these people loves lies. We eat it up. We love to be lied to. That's why he tell you, he said, don't prophecy unto us right things, prophecy unto us smooth things, prophecy unto us deceits. See, we want to be told lies. We want to be told, these people don't really want to be told the truth. Don't everybody claim that they real and they authentic and tell me the truth, but people never want to hear the truth if it conflicts with something that they desire to do or something that they like. Then you don't want to hear the truth then. Just like the example I mentioned y'all a couple weeks, months, I'm talking about weeks, with Eli. When Yah gave the judgment of Eli to Samuel, Samuel didn't want to tell Eli. Eli say, Samuel, tell me everything Yah said and don't hold nothing back. And when he told him, he said, let Yah do as he see fit. And he had told this man that he was going to kill his sons and him. That man didn't say, Samuel, you lying. He ain't told you that. He ain't do none of that. He said, but praise be to Yah. Let Yah do what he sees fit. Because this man said, hey, that's what my work earned me. That's what it is. I know what I had done. How can I kick and fight against this judgment? I earned it. I earned it. You know what I'm saying? Even in the midst of him being dead wrong, he gave acknowledge that Yah is almighty and omnipotent and worthy to be praised, and that his judgment is just, and that men ought to submit unto it, even if it's not what you wanted to hear. And very few people, because everybody want to have it in their mind that Yah love them and Yah gonna forgive them and he gonna be merciful on them no matter what they do. And that's the wrong mind to have. The man don't owe you nothing. He doesn't owe you anything. Let's see why he don't owe you anything. He gave you your flesh and bones that you currently reside in. He gave you the nephesh, or the soul that causes you to be alive. He breathed breath into your lungs. He provides you food. He provides you clothing. He provides you shelter. This before we even talk about anything pertaining to salvation. Just natural things. He provided you all this here. He gives you the power to get wealth. He's the reason why you have somewhere to stay. He's the reason why people may be at peace with you. Now let's pretend to salvation. Now he can also give you the Ruach HaKodesh if you believe and obey. He can give you the bread, which is the body of his son. He can give you the blood, which is the life of his son, which is that Ruach, what I just mentioned. He gives you mercy. He gives you long suffering. He gives you loving kindness. He gives you goodness, and he gives you truth. What does this man owe you? What does he owe you? What have you ever given to him? Let us ask ourselves that. What have you ever given to him? When did he? That's why he told you in Psalm 50. He said, "Man, I ain't asked you for no bulls and no goats for no sacrifice." He said, "If I was hungry, I wouldn't tell you." That's why Samuel said, "What have I taken from any of you for a sacrifice of this, that, there, and the third? Let that be known." So what does he owe you? When he's giving you everything and all you giving him is your butt to kiss through disobedient behavior, that man don't owe us anything. So knowing that our whole life is contingent upon him and that he is extending a mercy and a salvation so great of which none of us are even dare could say we were worthy to receive, then why would we not sit back and say, you know what, I will serve this man with my whole heart, my whole soul, and my whole strength, and all my might, that I may cleave unto him, that I might dwell in the land forever. Just like he told you. Because when your forefathers came into the land, what did he give him? He gave them houses of which they did not build, vineyards of which they did not dig, wells of which they did not dig. Well, I said vineyards of which they did not plant it, and wells of which they did not dig. A land that flowed with milk and honey, and the richness of all things that a man could not even comprehend. What does he owe you? What does he owe you? And when his heart was grieved and saddened because he had to destroy you, he said, I'll manifest my son in the likeness of sinful flesh to destroy sin in the flesh, that I may not kill you. What does he owe you? I give you knowledge. I give you wisdom. I give you understanding. What does he owe you? He doesn't owe you anything. So you need to get that self-absorbed, self-indulgent, and selfish mentality and thought out of your head to feel like that this man has to do anything. This man doesn't have to do nothing but be Elohim and create and do as he sees fit, when he sees fit, how he sees fit, wherever he sees fit, to whomever he sees fit. Got to get that out your head. That man don't owe you nothing. He don't owe me nothing. He don't owe nobody nothing. Nothing. He did everything for you. You ain't never did nothing for him. Matter of fact, I guess we'll read that verse in a moment. Let me read it, Jeremiah chapter 7 first, though. 7 and 8. Make it 7 and 4. Matter of fact, make it 7 and 2. Stand in the gates of Yahuwah's house and proclaim there this word, and say, hear the word of Yahuwah, all ye of Yehudah, that enter in at these gates to worship Yahuwah. Thus saith Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Yasharal, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. Trust ye not in lying words, saying the temple of Yahuwah, the temple of Yahuwah, the temple of Yahuwah are these. For if you thoroughly amend your ways and your doings, if you thoroughly execute judgment between a man and his neighbor, if you oppress not the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and shed not innocent blood in this place, neither walk after other gods to your hurt, then I will cause you to dwell in this place in the land that I gave your fathers forever and ever. Behold, you trust in lying words that cannot profit. Will you steal, murder, and commit adultery, and swear falsely, and burn incense unto Baal, and walk after other gods whom you know not, and come stand before me in this house which is called by my name, and say, we are delivered to do all these abominations? Will you stand in the house which is called by his name, which is Hebrew chapter 8? This is the sanctuary which Yahuwah hath pitched, and not man. Will you sit back and join yourself, knowing that he that is joined unto the master is one Ruach? Shall we make the Ruach of Yahusha into a harlot? Elohim forbid. So now that you say that you can come into this man's house and dwell with him and he dwell with you, are you saying that you have been delivered from death to come in this man's house and to commit all these abominations when he said, dwell in me and I in you? So how you going to sit back and say that you have been immersed by putting away not the filthiness of the flesh, but a good conscience toward Elohim, and then say you were standing this man how to do whatever it is that you want to do, that he saved you from sin for you to commit abomination? Galatians chapter 2. I know I mentioned something else. I can't remember what it was. Galatians chapter 2. You can't commit. Let's just be serious for a moment. And consider that and weigh that out in your soul, in your spirit, in your mind. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. 2 and 16, 2 and 15. We, Galatians chapter 2 and 15, we who are Yahudim by nature and not sinners of the Gentiles, knowing that a man is not justified by the works of the Torah, but by the faith of Yahushua HaMashiach. Even we have believed in Yahushua HaMashiach, that we might be justified by the faith of Mashiach, and not by the works of the Torah, for by the works of the Torah shall no flesh be justified. But if, while we seek to be justified by Mashiach, we ourselves also are found sinners, is therefore Mashiach the minister of sin? Elohim forbid. For if I build again the things which I destroyed, I make myself a transgressor. For though through the Torah I am dead to the Torah, I might live under Elohim. I am crucified with Mashiach. Nevertheless I live, yet not I, but Mashiach live in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of Elohim, who loved me and gave himself for me. So knowing, because remember he said it's the lies, your lies cause you to err, and the lies of your father. Knowing that he said he no longer lives, but Mashiach lives in him, based on the love of Elohim, because this man laid down his life for him. So therefore he said the word lives in him now. I don't live for myself anymore. So therefore we know that Elohim is abundant in goodness and truth. Therefore lies cannot reside in you if you desire to live for him and not for yourself. Our problem is we trying to live for ourselves and for Elohim. That's why the man told you can't serve two masters, because you're going to love one and hate the other. You're going to cleave to one and refuse the other. You can't serve Elohim and Mammon. You can't serve the Ruach and the flesh. You can only serve one. Which one will you serve? To whom you lend your member servants to is to whom you obey. This is bottom line. To whomever you yield your members servants to is to whom you obey, whether sin unto death or obedience unto righteousness. You can't serve both. You can't serve lies and truth. You can only serve one. Which one are you going to serve? And if Satan is the father of lies, you can't serve Elohim and the adversary. Which one are you going to serve? Do you even have enough judgment to discern who is of Yahuwah and who is not? Because some of y'all should know, because we done went over it. Some of you may not know because you hadn't heard it. Can you discern between the two? Because just because somebody say, I believe in Yahuwah, don't mean they are Yahuwah. That don't mean anything. There's plenty of people in this book say they were of Yahuwah and were wicked, because their hearts were not right. They were not set with him. And again, it goes back to the key point. The whole thing is about your mind. Your heart, your mind, your inner man. That's what the whole thing is about. Your inner man. Because out of the heart is where everything emanates from. Everything you do emanates from your heart. Your thoughts, your actions emanate from that. Whose mind are you going to possess? Are you going to have the mind of Mashiach and let him live in you? Or are you going to have your mind and let death reign in you? Because those that hate me love death. That's it. It's bottom line. Those people hated Yahuwah in Genesis chapter 6. Therefore they loved death. So he had no other choice. It pained him to have to kill him, but he had to do it. He had to do it. If you actually pay attention and look in this book, you can see that Yah never ever wanted to bring any wrath upon any man, but that they pushed his hand, they forced his hand to leave him no other option than to satisfy itself by executing fierce judgments and wrath upon the heads of the wicked. He didn't want to do it, but you're not finna try me like that. It's no different in the street. In the street, you can't let anybody do it. You can't let nobody rob you, because then everybody think they can do it. They can side. That's why that man say, you got these people out here blaspheming my name, because now everybody think they can size me and try me any kind of way because of how you moving. You let dudes rob you, smack you up in the street, everybody in around the way think they can do you like that. So the only thing that you can do to get people to respect you is to respond with violence. And you got a lot of dudes in the street, they respond with violence not because they want to be violent, but because that is the code of which they live by. That's the only thing that these niggas in the street understand. It's the only thing that they respect. Yahuwah don't want to drop no violence upside your head. He don't want to drop no evil on your head. But that seems to be the only thing that you respect. That seems like to be the only thing that you respect. So he ain't got no choice but to do it. That man didn't want to send them plagues on the people in the wilderness. That man didn't want to kill them people for begging for flesh. But it seemed like that was the only thing they respected. He didn't want to send Hazael. He didn't want to send Benadad. Seemed like that was the only thing you respected. He didn't want to see the Philistines to take the Ark of the Covenant during the time of Samuel. Seemed like it was the only thing they respected. It's the only. He didn't want to have to kill David's son from Bathsheba, but he had no choice. He committed adultery. That's the only thing he was going to respect. When Hashatan moved David to number the people and he dropped them plagues on the people, that was the only thing David respected. That's why he said, let me fall in the hands of Elohim and not man, because Elohim will be merciful. Man, I don't know what he's going to do. That's the only thing that you're going to... It's sad that violence and wrath is the only thing that we respect. Because when he offers love and kindness and compassion by reason of persuading you by word to get you to repent and turn from your evil ways, you don't respect it. But when he go to busting you upside your head, your respect level increases exponentially. Come over here to the book of Jonah. That's a sad state of affairs, and we shouldn't be moving like that. It shouldn't take this man putting wrath on the side of our head to give him his respect. Why does it take that for us to respect him? Why it got to get that far? It shouldn't have to get that far. You should turn just by his word alone. Shouldn't take him busting you upside your head and executing violence to get you to repent, to get you to turn. But that's because we despise the truth. We love lies. That's why it's like that. Jonah 2:8. We'll make it verse 4 though. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight, yet I will look again towards thy Kadesh temple. The waters compassed me about, even to the soul. The depths closed me round about. The weeds were wrapped about my head. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains, and their rats was with her bars, was about me forever. Yet thou hast brought my life from corruption, O Yahuwah my Elohim. And when my soul fainted within me, I remembered Yahuwah, and my prayer came in unto thee, into thy Kadesh temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. Now you sit there and think about that. He said, those that observe lies forsake the very salvation of which they claim that they desire. When you observe lies, you forsake your own salvation. What are lies? That man lied and told them people in the beginning, told Adam and Eve in the beginning, you shall not surely die. And that's what these wicked sinners, and that's what the adversary is telling you. You can sin and you won't die. Nevertheless, that the book say the soul that sin shall die. Nevertheless, the book say the wages of sin is death. Nevertheless, this man say, unless you repent, you shall likewise perish. That would he, come on, we can go do this here. You're not going to surely die. All we got to do is say we're sorry and pray to him. That nigga is extra wicked. You know what I'm saying? Whoever that is tell you that. Extra wicked. If you're telling yourself that, your mind is extra wicked and you need to get it up out of there. You need to swap that heart out. Straight up and down. You know what I'm saying? Because you lying to yourself. You trying to tell yourself you won't die for something that man say you'll surely die for. That man said, you know that those that do such things shall not enter into the kingdom of Elohim, not a fornicator, not an idolater, not a murderer, not an adulterer, not a lascivious person, not somebody who's malicious, not somebody who is lovers of themselves, not those who are rather please themselves in Elohim, and thus like, not a males who abuse themselves with mankind, not a drunkard, not an extortioner, not a reviler. You lying to yourself, telling you going to live when you know that man say you going to die. And this man told you to cast away all iniquity from you so it won't be your ruin, because he ain't got no pleasure in you dying. But we love lies. So the lies is what causes us to forsake the very mercy of which he's extending. You can listen to your flesh if you want to. You can listen to sinners if you want to. But when you find yourself coming in front of that judgment seat, and that man in the light of his countenance shine out your secret sins, there'll be nowhere for you to hide. Come on back to Amos chapter 2. Remember, man, this man has no pleasure. None. 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 We already seen in Genesis chapter 6, it pained him to his heart to have to do it. It made him sad. He did not want to do that to you. But he had no choice. You forced his hand. He does not want to send you to hell. Do not force his hand. Don't force his hand. People like to try people though. Y'all's not the one to try. Don't try him. You know what I'm saying? Try new restaurants, man. Try a new outfit. Try a new hairstyle. Don't try him though. Amos 2:6. Thus saith Yahuwah, for 3 transgressions of Yasharal, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes. Y'all know they sold Hamashiach for some silver, and you know who sold them. That pant after the dust of their rats on the head of the poor, and turn aside the way of the meek, and a man and his father will go into the same maid to profane my Kadesh name. You know that man ain't with that. Nevertheless, let's look at Hosea 1:1, because I'm about to run out of time. We just got to set stuff up for later. I say we're not going to rush through this particular topic. We will exhaust, Yah willing, every single solitary means that we get a full understanding of everything that's going on, and not just looking at this stuff as just history, but really understanding what was occurring so that we can act. Like you said, man, all the things that are written aforetime were written for our learning, that through the scriptures we might have hope and comfort. So we could gain some understanding. So we could learn that all these things written aforetime were written for our admonition. That by reason that we should not lust after evil things. Because that's our problem. We done sought out many inventions, and we desire many evil things, and we hearken to lies, and we love lies, and we love those that hate Yah, and we wonder why we can't elevate spiritually. Stop looking at where your life is naturally. Where your life is naturally does not necessarily denote to where your life is spiritually. You could be dead poor living in a cave, and Yah will be with you way stronger than someone who lives in a 15-room mansion with 17 cars. And millions of dollars, and Yah could be with you even stronger because you were destitute and afflicted with nowhere to live. So don't let the natural thing fool you. That's why he said don't any sin the sinners in your heart, because they're going to be destroyed and you'll live forever. Don't go by that. Don't be a dummy and think gain is godliness. Book tell you about that. Book tell you to cut somebody like that off. One of these days we'll have to sit back and go through this here where the book talks about cutting people off, and why you'll cut them off, and the purpose of why he's telling you to cut them off. Because why he's telling you to cut these people off is not for the sake of just cutting people off. Because I don't care who you deal with. You know what I'm saying? It's your soul. I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? Because if you given the framework of the, when I say I don't really care, meaning you've been given the information, you see what the word says and why you have to do something, and you choose to do opposite, that means you don't care about yourself. So why am I going to care about you more than you care about yourself? You know what I'm saying? No, sir. I done already showed you that I cared by telling you the truth and showing you for the salvation of yourself. Not only for you, but for me. Because the same thing that you, if you telling somebody or showing somebody or preaching or teaching somebody out the word, you have to do it for yourself. So that same conclusion that you may have to come to, I may have already came to it or have to come to it myself. I'm not exempt from that. And I know it's not easy of removing yourself from certain people that you may care, love, or even like. But then you have to look at why, like I mentioned earlier, he tells you to remove people not just for the sake of removing them, but to protect your heart and your soul from the influence of transgression and evil, because he doesn't want that in his midst or in your midst, because it can corrupt you. That's why. There's no other reason. You know what I'm saying? It's not all this extra stuff that people try to make it out to be. It's for no other reason than that. No other reason. He said, get the evil from amongst you. He said there's enmity between the woman's seed and the serpent's seed. So it's not going to work. But then at the same token, you can have the wheat, the tares growing amongst the wheat. So you know everything is not necessarily mutually exclusive in every situation. But you have to be able to know who to let go and when to let them go. Because if evil people took down Solomon, they'll take us down. They'll take us down. If a man talking about here Elohim can tell a man who had direct instructions from Elohim and he was stupid enough to listen to him and he died because of it, it can happen to you. All this stuff is written for your learning so you can know not to do what you want to do, but to always stay steadfast to the explicit and implicit instructions of your power, of your God, of your Father, of your King, and of your Savior. That's what you ought to do. I don't care what another nigga talking about. You gotta stay with what that word say. I don't care what another nigga talking about. He say whatever he want to say. What does the book say? If somebody is trying to convince you to go against the word, then they're trying to convince you to observe lying vanities and to forsake your own mercy. How you gonna let somebody persuade you to forsake your own mercy and salvation, even yourself? How you gonna convince yourself to abandon your own salvation? You know how dumb that is? I mean, and I'm saying it is when you hear it out loud, that sounds really, really stupid. And we do it every day. Do you know what I'm saying? When you hear it in that context, when you can hear it out loud and you can think about it and ponder it, that is really, really stupid. You know what I'm saying? When you sitting in prison or you sitting in jail for doing something, you sit back and look at you really, really stupid for putting yourself in a position to sit in here with 72 men every day. And run the risk of the CEO coming to beat you up at night because he can. Because now you eating food that's not even acceptable for a starving dog. Then you start to look at, I'm really stupid. Some people don't. Some people relish it and love it and run around and play and think it's a game. And they end up coming back and forth for the rest of their adult life. And that's how we move when it comes to self. We think it's a game. And then they'll be resting in the hell for the rest of your life. We have to start looking at, that's really stupid of me. Why am I doing? Why would I do that? Why would I forsake freedom? Say, well, the ruach of the master is there is freedom. Why am I forsaking freedom? Freedom from sin, freedom from death, and for what? For a friend? For a spouse? For a family member? For some money? For some pleasure? For some notoriety? For some honor? That's not an equal trade. That's not an equal trade. That is not an even swap, no swindle. We have been swindled and bamboozled. Now you wonder why you can't get in. Why I can't get right spiritually. Because you worrying about the wrong things. That's been Yasharal's problem since our inception. And it's our problem at this present time. Hosea 1:1. The word of Yahuwah that came unto Hosea the son of Berai in the days of Uzziah, Jotham, Ahaz, and Hezekiah, Maliks of Yehudah, and in the days of Jeroboam the son of Joash, Malik of Yasharal. So all these boys caught some of this here. And we ain't got to these other 4 kings that he mentioned. So it lets you know that Jeroboam the second reigned for a very long time. We already read the beginning of the word of Yahuwah by Hosea. Yahuwah said to Hosea, go take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land have committed great whoredom from departing from Yahuwah. So went and took Gomar the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And Yahuwah said unto him, call his name Yezreel, for yet a little while will I avenge the blood of Yezreel upon the house of Yahuwah, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Yasharal. Now, I'm not going to be able to continue all this here, but you know, we read about Yahuwah and we read about what he did. How he went against the word and said, now he got to avenge the blood of Yezreel upon the house of Yahuwah because of what Yahuwah did in his idolatry and his selfishness and taking out people he had no business taking out. But what we look at knowing that Jeroboam walked in the the son of YAHUAH walked in the sins of Jeroboam the son of Nebat, and caused the people to commit idolatry, which means he caused the whole land to fall into whoredom. So I had something in Jeremiah chapter 6, but I ain't going to be able to get to it tonight because it goes with the core. But most high willing, we'll get to that, which goes to what we read about the digging in the wine press, which we got to revisit the link that at Numbers 21 and something else. So y'all willing, that be in my brain on tomorrow. But notice that with the exception of Hezekiah, for the most part, those other three men, because Uzziah fell into idolatry as well, they caused the people to hearken unto lies. They caused the people to commit great whoredom, which is why you see him sending out Hosea to go marry a whore. The same way that Yasharal had fell into great lies, and he sent Yahushua to go marry a whore. A woman who was not deserving of his love, was not deserving of his salvation, or anything that he had to give. But yet, because of the great love that he had, and he had no pleasure in destroying this woman or her offspring, he went and delivered them. Before we depart, let us read verse 10 of this chapter 1, or verse 9, or verse 8. We'll just end it with that particular matter, and then go to 1 Peter chapter 2. And we'll start right there because I can't keep going. We'll be here till 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Make it verse 7. Actually, I'll just read verse 5, catch it all. And it shall come to pass at that day I will break the bow of Yasharal in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again and bare a daughter, and Elohim said unto her, call her name Lo Ruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Yasharal, but I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Yehudah, and will save them by Yahuwah their Elohim, and will not save them by bow, nor by sword, nor by battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Now you know this is Mashiach. He had mercy on him, and he didn't save him by these things. And y'all willing, we go on all this in greater detail. Now when she had weaned Leruamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said Elohim, call his name Lo-Ami, for you are not my people, and I will not be your Elohim. Yet the number of the children of Yasharal shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living Elohim. Then shall the children of Yehudah and the children of Yasharal be gathered together, and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, and for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Most High will probably continue that on tomorrow, and I know I got to deal with the thing with the vows, so y'all to understand the children immersion. I got to work that in, but you do got to get a greater understanding of what we just read right here. 1 Peter chapter 2. Because he told you that both of you would come out, which takes us back to Ezekiel 37, takes you to John chapter 10. He said you have one head. Takes you to 1 Corinthians chapter 11. Takes you to many, 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 many different places to show you what this man did to make you his people again. It also will take us to Romans chapter 7 and many other things. And most high willing, we touch them all. But look at what the key point of what he told you is he said that he wasn't going to save Yasharal, he saved Yehudah, which takes us back to Zechariah 12 of him saying the tents of Yehudah first. But then he come back and he gets Yasharal, and it's also going to take us to when he put Yasharal out of the land because they got put out first. But then he said the same token when he told you were not his people, that he would turn around in that very same place and say you were his people. And most high willing, we'll have to look at that at the time and place that you became his people again. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 7. Unto you therefore which believe he is precious, but unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a Kadesh nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who have called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, which in times past were not a people, but now are the people of Elohim, which had not obtained mercy, but now have attained mercy. Dearly beloved, I beseech you as strangers and pilgrims, abstain from fleshly lusts, which war against the soul. So, knowing that it's the blood of Mashiach if which caused you to be a people, because you were not a people. Because you cannot proclaim to be the people of Elohim and walk in iniquity and sin. Because therefore now that would go back to what we mentioned from 1 Corinthians chapter 6. We didn't read it, but I mentioned in what is it? It's just in my head. And that Galatians chapter 2. That you saying that Mashiach is the teacher of sin, and that Elohim is joined unto sin, therefore making him a sinner. And that's not going to happen. That's not going to occur. So therefore we could not proclaim to be his people. So therefore we had been rejected. Now what can he do to bring his people back? He set up a plan that way you wouldn't be saved by bow, nor sword, nor horses, nor horsemen, but by YAHUAH your Elohim. He did that by extending the mercy of his son unto us, which is why you see he was grieved with the flood. He didn't have anybody to send to take that death for you. So he sent somebody later to take it for you. Do not forsake that mercy and that favor. Do not let that opportunity slip through your fingers. Hallelujah for Yahushua. No word. We start right here. Y'all understood all this here? Everybody caught all that?